Good afternoon. Welcome to the Township of Whitewater Region Regular Council meeting for Wednesday, August 17th, 2022 at 4:48 p.m. As we gather, we would like to acknowledge on behalf of Council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Please stand for the prayer. Almighty God, we give thanks for the great blessings which have been bestowed on Canada and its citizens, including the gifts of freedom, opportunity, and peace that we enjoy. Guide us in our deliberations as Township councillors and strengthen us in our awareness of our duties and responsibilities. Grant us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to preserve the blessings of this country for the benefit of all and to make good laws and wise decisions. Amen. Now at this time I would ask council members if there's any disclosure of interest for this evening. Seeing none, we'll move on. Thank you. And we're moving on to 4.1 Boat Launch Program, Muskrat Watershed. And I do believe we have a presentation. So please give us your name and your association, whoever you're with, etc. So the folks at home with the microphone on, the folks at home can hear you.
Okay, I'm Karen Koulis, Chair of the Muskrat Watershed Council. Here to do a presentation on a possibility for consideration for the boat launch.
Great, thank you. You have the floor.
Okay, I did send a presentation
Yes,
in.
you did. We will get that up as quickly as possible.
We had a group called Indigo come in and present to us. The presenter was a Michael Thompson from Indigo. He is their business development coordinator. And I don't know if you go to the first slide. On this slide, it's showing you basically that technology has taken over from the rest of us, like myself, that don't use it a lot. And they're saying that now that is the way to do something, such as if you wanted to have a pay your way for the boat launch for things like tournaments where you may not be getting back the money from the tournament holders, and they are using the lake and they are giving your lake issues, and you're great enough to support us, and this might be a wave of income for you to continue to do so. You can go to the next. Here it's showing that a majority of parking now is already done by people scanning their phones in Ottawa. It's taking over. I've even noticed that when I go to visit my daughter, some of the places now want me to scan my phone, and I stand there looking like an idiot because I don't know how to do that. But my daughter's kind enough to help me with it. But I'm told this is the way things are going, and it makes it easy because there's no machines to take care of, to repair, to be vandalized. There's just a sign that a person scans with their phone. The next slide. Now they're saying that there's already 70,000 users of this in Ottawa, which is a lot of people, and that it's going up every year. And the next one, this shows you how it works. You can pay by an app that you can preload onto your phone, and you can make an account so that if you wanted to go to the boat launch on Sunday, you could prepay, go down. You have to put in your license plate number, and that would be used if you chose to monitor it. Somebody could access that, make sure that the license plates that are there have paid. Or you can just, like some have done, he told me, is just they use the honor system, but just the fact that the people have to give that information usually makes people want to do it. They're afraid of getting caught. They have ones that use the card like you do going to your dump to put on your window for the people that live in the township, so they're not forced to pay. Or you can scan and pay, which is immediate paying by Visa or debit card through your phone. Okay. This just says what's required, that it's a one-time setup. That's all right, you can go ahead. I think that basically shows you that the sign would say Indigo, pay here, and it shows which side you want to scan with your phone according to what you decide you want to pay. This shows that the advanced technology and enforcement they can do. I probably would not apply here, but you could in the future. It would if you chose to. But maybe there's other applications for you for something like this that you'd be interested in. But you can, the machines that the police now have that just scan the license plate numbers and it'll tell you. And maybe there's an app for that too. I'm not totally up on that, but I do have the gentleman's contact information that I will give you in case you want to look into it further. This just shows the financial model, saying that if you charged $8, now I know most places for a boat docking fee are somewhere between $20 and $25. In Pembroke it was, not anymore.
Well, Pembroke is about $8, $7.50 plus HST.
Is it? Okay, because last person I talked to, they'd be 25, but maybe they did a weekend.
They must have actually stayed overnight or something. Yeah.
Maybe. I've never done that, so. But here they said if it was $8, then there's a convenience fee and a transaction fee to go to Indigo. So the total charge to the person would be $9.08. So it's not a large amount of money. And then it gives you just an example of what you would expect for income if you had 300 boats over a month. With your fees taken out, you would have $17.46 in your pocket. Now, one thing to know with Indigo is that there is a $30 fee you would have to continue to pay probably over the winter season. But if you have enough traffic, it would cover having to pay those costs. Anyway, we saw this and we were interested. We thought maybe it's something council might want to consider as a income revenue, and we wanted to bring it to you so that you had the option of learning about it. Is there any questions that I might be able to answer?
I have lots of questions. But we'll go around the table first. Who's up? Who wants to ask a question? Councillor Jackson, please.
I think there's a couple of concerns that we have. Number one is that we don't have a whole lot of parking down there, and that's been the biggest concern with regards to fishing derbies and all of that, and that they do end up on the main street and they do end up over at the churches or, behind here or over at the arena. So it's not really for parking. It would have to be for boat launching. I'm not sure, we've never entertained, there is a fee that the person running the tournament is supposed to submit on the number of people that are, or boats that are going fishing. And I think it's $10 a boat, is my understanding. And I don't know how often that's ever monitored or not. If we had a bigger parking lot like the city of Pembroke does, I can see how that could be beneficial. But even at that, when we go up with the boat, there's probably there wouldn't even be 50% of the people that are parked there that have boat trailers on their vehicle. There's a lot of extra vehicles in the parking lot that are going, my parents meet us down at the boat launch, so they park, but they don't have a boat, so they're not paying for the docking fee. They're not paying anything, right? It's free parking. So there's that. Down here there's probably only enough room for, I would hesitate to say 20. I think anywhere between 10 and 20 on a daily basis, you know, to actually park down there. And we can't really, so unless it was a docking fee, and then you're not going to run around town and get the license plates of everybody that has
No, and
a trailer behind their vehicle.
we mentioned that to them, and it's not, you wouldn't, like, they use it as a parking thing, but you could call it boat launch fee on the sign.
Right.
And have it by the launch where it's just for launching your boat.
Yeah. And I think, I know in Horton, they do have, or it might be McNabb Brayside, but I can't remember. It's around there. To get on the Ottawa River, it goes by honor system, and it's a toonie, and you put it in a box. So we've never done it. We've never gone there, but I've seen it. I don't know. I mean, it's supposed to be on the honor system for the fishing derbies, that any fishing tournaments that they have, they're supposed to submit a list and an amount of money. They're supposed to collect it and let us know. We have no idea if those numbers are true or not. As far as I know, I wouldn't have any idea. I don't know if, a staff member goes down and checks it, their registration. I have no idea. So while it is a good idea, I don't see it happening here in Whitewater region, because it would have to be, Muskrat Lake. It would have to be every boat launch we have. We have one in Westmeath, we have one in La Paz, and it's just not feasible.
Now, you don't think that people would pay, or you just, because it doesn't have to be for parking. This sign can say a boat launch fee. It's $60 a sign, I believe, and you put a sign at each launch.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough go, right? Like, because what other services are we providing for that boat launch fee other than the boat launch?
Well, I do know you have to repair your boat launches once in a
Yeah,
while.
I know.
do know that
It's just that, I mean, there's that cost, but I don't know how much extra would be there to donate it to the Muskrat Watershed Council.
But you're already donating, so
Yeah.
my point is that this might help you continue to be generous with us.
I get it. I just don't see it functioning well. It's just my thoughts.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Nicholson.
I love the initiative, like to come forward and try to propose this, and I like the idea, and Sean knows I'm looking at him already. What bothers me isn't the form or function, but when I add up the expenses, when you pay the 30 months, I don't know if you can put that back up, Carmen, the operating expenses, that 342 that they posted only includes 1 month of a hosting fee. So it would go up by another $330, which would take it up to almost $800 in expenses and administration fees that would go to Indigo. And on a $2,000 of the revenue, that's almost half of it going into Indigo. So the first question I'd throw at Sean is, how does that compare with what we collect right now? Is it greater? Well, okay, if it's greater, then that's one thing to consider. But the convenience of it is great. We might get more hits because the person going down to Acres that's from out of town may, via that honor system, scan his phone and pay. So to me, it has some weaknesses. Councillor Jackson pointed them out. I'm not prepared to dismiss it right now. I wouldn't want to implement it, but I think we need to start thinking like this to explore different ways to make, access to Muskrat Lake, especially from non-residents, help contribute to the management of Muskrat Lake, including the boat launch.
One of the questions I do get from people that visit me that do put their boats in is, why is there no fee?
Mm-hmm.
But they're all coming from places like Ottawa.
Yeah, where they would normally pay a fee.
They do.
Without blinking, yeah. So, sorry? Yeah, and there's staff there to do it. So we have, the complications are completely valid. Could we think of a different way of doing business? Yes. I don't want to make work and then collect less. We'd have to be able to demonstrate that it's worth our effort. And I don't know, Sean, can we get revenue that way? Or would it just come across, it would come across like a PayPal?
Yeah, my assumption would be that once a month you'd likely get the drawdown from,
Yeah.
they would just keep their portion. The HST, I'm not sure how that would work. I'm sure we'd have to remit that on our end, but I'm assuming that we would be able to draw down once a month, but I'm not 100% certain on that, but this would be my assumption.
So, thank you. I would love it if you had more of these kinds of ideas. I think this is a great effort, and I think it's worth exploring, but I'd like to talk with Sean offline just to see how the numbers might match up to make it worth it. And thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor McLaughlin had his hand up next.
And I don't know if anybody can answer this question, but does anybody know if the service clubs have put any money into the maintenance of the boat launch at any point? I don't. I'm not aware. I'm not aware. That's, I think of that. I like your idea, and I think if there was revenue, the revenue should go back to the Muskrat Watershed Association so that they could maintain or try and get the quality of the water. And if we drove that idea, maybe an honor system might work, because there needs to be some way, there needs to be revenue put through so that the water quality could be better controlled, is my thoughts. Much like Councillor Nicholson, we have to crunch numbers, make sure that it's feasible. And I know that I was at the Ig Hall one day. I can't remember what function it was, but you couldn't get any parking for boats with the tournaments. Maybe we need to check these tournaments better and find out how many people did you have? Rather than they just come in. Because I think the tournaments are one of the biggest issues. I have no idea how much it's used. I know the one on the Caroline is used an awful lot because I watch all the boats. And I'm sure if they're coming by my house with a boat and trailer, they're coming from the boat launch. And there's one after the other. And I think it's great. It's great that we have that facility for them. That's where, do you charge, like Councillor Jackson says, I don't know, how many boat launches do we maintain? Or do we have? 5? 4? Okay, if you're going to do one, well, I think you'd have to do all 4 as well. So I like I'm not saying anything against the idea, but I do think that if we were collecting this kind of fees, that it needs to go to improve the water quality of especially if you're going to charge the Muskrat Lake, then the money needs to go to help maintain or better the quality of the water. And I'll stop at that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Mackay.
I think it's a good idea. I just don't like the electronics involved, and seems to be, but I like Charlene's idea of having something you can put a donation in, an honor system, and you could put a fish, and people would put money in the mouth of the fish, and we could do that at all our put-ins, and except Westmeath, instead of a trout, we can put a mud pout because it really needs to be dredged there. So, but I think it'd be a good idea. I think people would put money into that.
They might. The only problem that comes with the honor system where you're dropping money into things is people have a tendency to bust them open.
Well, you're making it solid. You got to make it solid. There's no doubt about it. But yeah, you're right. But that's one way that I think somebody's using that. $4 would be nothing, or.
Yeah, except a lot of people, and probably not very well, a few in this room maybe be young enough, But we have a tendency to carry money, but I can't remember the last time that my daughter carried money.
Oh, I know, you're right.
She uses her phone, she uses her card, she carries no money. If something says cash only, it's like, Mom, can you give me money? So I guess the wave of the future is coming whether we like it or not, but again, for doing all of, like, if you wanted a thing at each boat launch, saying a launching fee, again, the same sign, you just get more signs, put them at each place. And it's not a parking sign, but a launch fee.
Because that's electronic, so somebody will break that too.
Well, the sign just has a little thing you scan, it's your phone that does it. So the sign is, yeah, the sign literally, like, if this piece of paper had the QR code on it, you scan it with your phone. So it's just a metal sign that has a permanent QR code on it.
Okay, thank you. Turn your mic off.
Yeah, no, I'm done.
Okay. Councillor, Regier, please.
Well, thank you very much. And much like Councillor Nicholson and Councillor Jackson, I certainly do appreciate your initiative. It's a great thought. I'm just not anything I can entertain at this time. I just find, first of all, technology is great, but there are a lot of people that I know go down and fish at that launch that do not own a cell phone. That there's individuals who wouldn't have that technology yet. And I know the idea of putting something out with a toonie on the again, I think that happened in McNabb Brace, and I think they took it down, if I'm not mistaken, because of vandalism and theft. I don't quote me on that, but I think that happened. I like the idea. And maybe further down, something we could consider, but I just think at this point in time, it's just not, I think it's a service that I would just like to see us still offer for free, if possible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Olmsted.
Well, I have to speak, I guess, the last one. Similar to what Reeve just said, I love the initiative, absolutely love it. I think anything to do with fees, we have to kind of take a step back and make sure that it's 95% or above the right thing to do and accurate, and we're talking residents, non-residents, that kind of stuff. So I think we really have to figure out the go-forward position. But I love the initiative, and I think we need to kind of, this is a great first step in getting us to think about it. And whether it's this or some other model down the road, I think we should consider it. Thank you.
It wasn't that long ago that everybody was starting to get cell phones, and we were the biggest opponents of that. We all have one. Look at what we're doing our work on. We're doing it on an iPad. So anyway, just times have changed. I know there are docks in our area where there's no service. Once you get off the 417 corridor, like, it's a hit and a miss in Beachburg and Westmeath. La Paz isn't bad because you're coming off the Quebec side, but in Westmeath there's no service. Beachburg there's no service. So to be able to actually come across with this, it's a great idea. But right now, electronically, until the continued support of new cell towers are actually utilized and come online, this is not really feasible in some areas. But I do have one question with this graph that's up. It says that there's a transaction fee, etc. Is this just for one location, or if we were to put it at, say, 5, would that number stay the same, or would the number go up per location?
If you put up 5 signs and you have 5 signs, for each transaction, you pay these fees. For each $8, you would pay these fees.
Okay, so in order for us to do true figures, then we have to know exactly what it's going to cost. So,
Well, it's $60 a sign plus
yeah,
all these fees. But I do have the contact information if you wanted to look into it. I'll give this to Sean, and you can look into it. We just wanted to bring this to you as an option for you, because I know that it's hard to get revenue for these things. And I know as a taxpayer, I've got my little card that I take when I go to the dump, and I put it on there. Landfill. And I know, like, you can use the same sort of thing as a card to say that I'm a resident, so.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Councillor Nicholson?
It's unrelated, but since we do have the president of the Watershed here, maybe we could ask her for just a short summary of what's going on with the Watershed Council. Is that possible?
She's willing to take that on.
Sure.
It's
I
a
can-
two-thirds vote for around the table if we want to allow that. All in favor?
I guess I would say if she would prefer to come back and do something, we're putting you on the
putting her on the
spot.
spot. Yeah.
I can sum it up really
Real-
short.
Okay, yep, that's fine. I just
Okay.
don't want to put you on the spot.
No.
Okay, go ahead.
Last year, we finished with the Great Lakes Local Action Fund, where we did 2,000 meters of cattle fencing out of the water, 2 watering systems, and 5,000 plants for shoreline restoration. And this year, we're looking at some cattle out of the water, another water system, and some plants. And we're also looking into working with Watersheds Canada for a mechanical plant come the spring, if everything works out, on Muskrat Lake for 10 acres of farmland that would be going back into trees. So that's what we're up to, and we're still trying to find a few other projects too.
Okay. Councillor Jackson?
Sorry, thanks for the update, but just with regards to the boat launch as well, I just quickly looked at McNabb, Braeside, and Horton, and they have permits that can be purchased at different locations, especially Horton, it looks like. Or Horton can just be purchased at the township office. So their season pass for a resident is $40. Non-resident is $50, a day pass is $9, and their bylaw enforcement officer checks it to make sure that those are done. McNabb, but again, that would be like a cost involved to the township to have somebody come and check. Do you check it every day? Do you check it out just on the weekends? Blah, blah, blah. McNabb Braeside, you can purchase it at different locations. Day permits are 10, annual permits are 50, so they actually get a permit. So maybe for the 2023 budget, if staff wants to, you know, Parks and Rec, whatever, at some point wants to look at how they could, you know, bring that forward, it might be worthwhile. But again, we're going to have to, you know, balance the expenses as well as the revenue that comes in.
Yeah, that's your man hours or your expenses, and I get that, and that's one of the reasons we thought this might.
You still have to monitor it by a bylaw enforcement officer no matter what.
Well-
So it'd be the same, right?
You could, but you could also hope that people will see it and pay and see what happens, and then continue or discontinue. And
The same would go for this, right? You would hope that people would come and purchase, even if we had the day fees, you know, at the Shell here, you know, have a sign, pick up your boat launch pass at the Shell, or if we actually had the canteen open down, you know, and had lifeguards there full-time, whatever. You're still, no matter what system you put in, you're still relying on the fact that hopefully somebody will do it, and a good majority of the people will do it. It's not going to be any different for this situation that you've presented as opposed to any other situation, whether there's a donation box or an actual permit that is required. You're still hoping that somebody will obey the rules and follow suit and make that payment and purchase that permit, or, you know, register their driver's license. So yeah, there's different options, but I agree, I think we should be doing maybe something and see, but I'd like to see what are the expenses to do any of it, and go from there.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McLaughlin?
This is way off the topic, but seeing that Kathy's here, is the irrigation system still in place at the beach?
it is, we had some mechanical issues this spring, and we had trouble getting parts, and the parts have been put in place. And then we had a muskrat eat one of the lines, And there is a little more work to do, and as soon as my husband gets a chance to get off the combine, he will be taking care of fixing the
No,
last.
I didn't know whether I had no idea whether it was still in place or.
Yes, we
It just
started-
seems a shame. It's such a nice beach and.
We started the spring with 2 of them working really well and everything else not working. We went down and the beach was bubbling, so we knew something was wrong. And we pulled the sand back and a muskrat had eaten a portion of line like a cob of corn. It's like, I didn't think they would do that, but they did. So yeah, we're getting them up, but they are still working.
Well, I just was looking for information, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation.
All right, well, thank you for your
It
time.
has certainly spurred a lot of thought on behalf of councillors, so I know I've already seen this before at one of the meetings, but nobody else has, so
Yes.
it's nice that you presented and brought it forward.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Have a good evening. Okay, now we'll be moving on to item 4.2. First and second quarterly administrative report, and this goes to Ivan, please. Oh, motion for one. Okay, so the recommendation of the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve the first and second quarterly administrative report for information purposes. Motion is seconder, please. Councillor Mackay and Councillor Jackson, and this goes to Ivan, please.
Yeah, thanks so much. So we'll just run through this relatively quickly if we can. So just a quick message from the CAO. So I've now been the CAO for 1 month, but certainly I've seen a lot of change here in the township over the last 3.5, 4 years. So in the first half of 2022, we've engaged with our business community through our BR&E, Business Retention and Expansion Program. We've adopted the 2022 Asset Management Plan to help guide future investments. And we were also implementing that monthly current and council summaries to try to keep everybody informed. So as a new CAO, I'm grateful to work alongside council and our committed staff to help meet the expectations of our residents. And together with our community, we continue to shape Whitewater Region to be an innovative township and to provide for a rich quality of life. So directly into the community development piece. So we did review or consider 51 development applications in the first half of 2022, issued 181 building permits at a value of just shy of $19 million, 36 new dwellings as part of the first half of 2022. Work plan, strategic plan progress. So the MOU with Whitewater, Ontario was approved by council. Council also received the building services review, which as a result, we've hired Sam Buttle as our full-time building inspector, plans examiner. And just looking ahead, 2 things. We're looking to soft launch our online building permit system by September 1st to 15th, so probably hoping for early September. And then the full launch of that digital program by October 3rd, so Monday, October 3rd. And then we're preparing for Taste of the Valley on October 15th. I understand Taste of the Valley is operational in other communities at the end of this month. And so we're lined up for the last one on October 15th. And we're just lining up with our local organizations and the county to put that together. Thanks. Maybe I'm not sure if we want to go to questions for each department or we could just pass it over to finance and administration. I'll leave that to you, Mayor Moore.
Each department while we're fresh, so any
Good.
questions to Ivan before we move on? Seeing none, we'll go back to Sean then, please.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, as of June 30th, in terms of taxes receivable, at that point in time, we hadn't invoiced our final tax bill. So just to kind of put a few things in perspective, 3.5% of the interim tax bill remained outstanding, which is about $210,000, and we put that in comparison to a year ago. There was 4.3%. So it appears that the collection rate was a little bit more successful this year. We collected $90,000 in development charges in the first half of the year. And then in terms of our work plan, strategic plan process, we began the process of implementing the PSD citywide as our asset management tool. We adopted the asset management plan before the regulatory deadline. Staff attended some MFOA workshops regarding the PSAB requirements for the asset retirement obligations, which will be coming into effect next year. And we conducted tax sale proceedings on 4 properties. Under key activities, I'd like to congratulate Finance Assistant Julie Parr for completing Unit 1 of the AMCTO's Municipal Finance Administration Program, MAFP. The Township, along with GM and McNabb Braeside, hired Morgan Needham as our finance intern. That she'll be split between the 3 municipalities. She won't be with us until next year, but that was part of our Ontario Modernization Intake 3. We renewed the ORPC promissory note for a period of 10 years, which is important moving forward. And then as we look ahead, at the time of writing this, we were hoping to seek approval, but approval has been confirmed for the temporary boring of Cameron, Earl, and Vera. The asset management team will have to re-spark our meetings now that we have our plan. And then we want to implement iCity Online hopefully by the end of the year once the new server is completed. And just to build on Ivan, if the soft launch is not successful early, it's probably finance's fault because we're at the piece where we're trying to get the payment ironed out. So we'll take the heat if it's not ready to rock and roll. Anyway, with that, I'll pass it back to the mayor.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Oh, just a minute, Reeve Regier.
Thanks, Mayor. Just one quick question, Sean. So the township, like the Greater Madawaska, McNabb, Braeside, like the trio, that individual, how much time do we get allocated towards that?
We'll have her for 4 months, but we won't get that individual until February, I believe, of 2023.
And will it be 4 months consecutively?
Yes,
Okay.
February to May.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else? Okay, who's next, Ivan?
Jonathan.
Jonathan's next. Fire Chief McLaren, please.
Thank you. Quarter 1 brought 21 emergency responses, so a little bit slower than normal, including 2 fires. Quarter 2 made up for it. We had 8 fires, including a large forest fire, an apartment fire, and 3 other structure fires. So it was a very busy spring for us. Work plan and strategic plan progress. To align with new provincial legislation, we've entered into 2 learning contracts, one for our new hires, firefighter level 1, and one for our lieutenants, company officer level 1. So far they're going well, and they will finish up in early January of 2023. We begin online equipment and vehicle inspections. Everything's now done via mobile device or laptop. A few glitches, but going well, all things considered. Key activities, another recruit class began in January, 10 firefighters this time. We've got it down to a little bit of a science now, so things are going well in that regard. Our new forestry trailer, 9867, went into service in quarter 2. First aid and CPR training was completed in May and June for all our firefighters, as well as our NFPA required pump testing for all our frontline apparatus. Mother's Day brought a large fire, 10 acres, probably the biggest one we've had in recent memory, with many, many challenges. We've got a few things to work on as far as making sure that we're prepared for the next one, because with the urban interface that we're dealing with, it's going to happen again. But it went quite well, and thank you to the neighbors and residents there that helped us out that day. To look ahead, May is going to bring another round of door-to-door smoke alarm inspections, Alarm for Life program. Our new air monitoring equipment's been ordered and should arrive shortly. We're also testing our new radio equipment, including 2 repeaters, one mobile that would help with some of our communication issues that the fire previously discussed, as well as one mounted on the tower at the landfill. And finally, we are beginning a peer support group to help our firefighters who are dealing with some of the stresses related to the job or their personal lives. Thank you.
Any questions? I have one. The new online vehicle and equipment inspection, how does Terry, our mechanic, fit into that? Does he get a copy? What happens?
Currently, there's two separate systems. The one he uses and the one we use. So we still fill in his online work orders. He's been online for a few years now.
Okay, no, just as long as the right people are getting the info, that's all. Okay, any other questions? Councillor Mackay.
It's not really a question. I want to thank the fire department. At the fair, one of our water feeds wasn't working, so Ruben got a hose from the hall and just a 1-inch hose and hooked us up. And we had 150 head of cattle there, and we ran out of water. So the fair would like to thank you.
Okay, you're welcome, and it's good that it worked out.
Yeah, it was very good. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to Office of the CAO.
I can do that.
Oh, that's going to Carmen, okay.
Just because Rob is the charge of this for most of the month, so so by the numbers, the Whitewater's client list has grown to 200 since the last quarter, and they've also successfully recruited 8 senior volunteers to help seniors around the home yard with tax preparation. Work plan and strategic plans, the human resources policies were reviewed, and work on the elections is ongoing. Key activities, January to June, Bylaw responded to 37 animal complaints and 15 property standards. The Canadian Summer Job Grant for 9 summer students, well, we were successful in getting the Canadian Summer Job Grant for 9 summer students in the total of $18,900. And a look ahead, the election is coming up, and seniors has a partnership with the Eganville and District Seniors to expand Meals on Wheels. And that's pretty much it.
Questions? Seeing none, we will move on then to Parks and Rec. Who's taking that?
It'll be me. Thanks.
Great. Ivan, please.
So just, there's a quick summary of the number of hours of rentals for the Ball Diamonds Ice Rental Slab and the Cobden Upstairs Hall. The council did support the partnership with the City of Pembroke for the swim program as a result of not being able to recruit any certified lifeguards. I think that program is still ongoing. Certainly we'll get summary results of the registration on that in the coming months. The council received the final report from the Westmeath Recreation Task Force outlining 38 recommendations that'll get worked into work plans and annual budgets. The township approved a series of grants through its community recreation grants, so the different organizations are listed in the report there. Transitioning from parks maintenance to arena commencement, so a Cobden Arena plant startup is expected for September 1st, and with ice bookings as early as September 15th. And the Westmeath Arena plant startup October 3rd, and ice bookings typically 2 weeks after plant startup. Last item is we're going to be issuing our RFPs for the canteen concession stand at the Cobden and Westmeath arenas. So that's coming forward. Thanks.
Any questions? Seeing none, move on to Public Works. Lane, please.
Thank you. The landfill scales were commissioned and we started charging by weight on January 4th. We've seen the Olmsted Jeffrey Lake Road project was completed in the second quarter, and then the project for Cameron Street, Earl, and Vera started on June 13th. Staff did a pile of training, Q1, Q2. They completed the trench awareness and traffic control training. 3 of the staff members completed the TJ Mahoney course. Then also myself, the road super, and the environmental superintendent completed the municipal rural municipal drainage course. I'd like congrats to Terry O'Malley, our mechanic, that he's completed the EVT class 1, so class F1 and class F2, so he's certified and work on emergency vehicles. We also purchased and included DEF fluid in our card lock, so we can start buying bulk fluids to save cost per liter versus buying small totes of it. And looking ahead, looking to complete our live GPS in our snow removal fleet prior to winter, and then completion of the Ross landfill drop-off area. Thank you.
Any questions? Councillor Nicholson.
Yeah, just one, Mayor. I can't remember what the amounts were last time, but snow was removed 7 times from the village and hamlets. Is that typical, or is that higher or lower than we've had in the past, or any relativity there?
I don't have it offhand, but it's pretty average. This is just for from January on. And last year, I think we had 4, I believe, if I recall, off last fall.
That's it, okay. 33 phone calls were received in an emergency call center. What constitutes an emergency short form?
Yeah, so we, the township put in place an emergency number. Prior to that, residents would have a direct phone number line directly to our road super. But we changed it now. Now it's routed to our call center, and then they answer a series of questions, and then the call center will forward on to if it's a road emergency, or if it's a water and sewer emergency, or if it's animal call, they'll direct the call, and then also provide documentation to us by email.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor McLaughlin.
Lane, do you have any idea, are we now, can we take hazardous waste into Renfrew? Are we in that program yet or not?
No, we're not. So the process, the town of Renfrew has to amend their ECA. And once that happens, we'll bring back a report to council, and then providing, and through the budget process to go forward.
Okay, I wasn't sure whether we weren't, but we're also having another hazardous waste collection in September?
That's correct.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none? Back to Ivan.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight the resignation of our former CAO, Robert Tremblay, and former manager of Parks and Recreation, Jordan DeRoche, in Q2 of this year, just recognizing their work with the township and noting that we certainly wish them all the best in their future endeavors. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Also included in this pack was monetary. Is there any questions on the monetary? Seeing none, we'll move on. Thank you very much to the staff for presenting this evening. And if there's no other questions, we'll let them go. Seeing none, thank you. Now we'll move on to item 5, announcements. River Gear.
Nothing at this time. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Olmsted.
Just a quick one. 3 of us attended AMO, started Sunday, I got home last night. 4 days? Oh, sorry, I meant 3 councillors and a staff member. I don't want to steal anybody's thunder, by the way. And we had 4 delegations, if I'm not mistaken. Some very fruitful discussions, and hopefully they'll lead to something. Mine in particular was on Parks, Rec, and Tourism. And I think very valuable information and contacts that we made during AMO. Yeah, that's kind of about it.
You all made it back in one piece, and
We all made
all
it
did
back.
what you were supposed to do, so that's all we can hope for.
For sure.
Councillor McLaughlin.
I don't think I have anything. I just want to say we did the cruise with owl rafting last night, along with some of the seniors, and it was very good. It was good, and there was quite a few seniors. I think there was maybe a dozen seniors were out, an enjoyable evening. So I just wanted to mention that, and thank you to Dirk for hosting it. So.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Mackay.
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson.
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. Councillor Nicholson.
Mayor, I just echo Councillor Olmstead's points about the AMO conference the last 2.5 days. Really good. We had a chance, the 2 files I was able to advocate for on behalf of the township was with Minister of Environment, just to make sure that Muskrat Lake challenges and our 2 provincial parks remain on their forefront of their issues for our area. And the second delegation was with the Minister of Seniors and Accessibility, and they were very supportive of what we've achieved so far and hope to be able to find a way to continue to support us. So it was great news.
Great news all around. Thank you. Now we got a thank you note from Julie Kobus, who was a recipient of a bursary last week. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for your generous bursary. Your contribution will help me maintain my post-secondary goals. So thank you very much for that. So now we move on to item 6.1. Sorry, Councillor McLaughlin.
Sorry, I must have missed, I'd like to declare on 6.1, please. That's the library appointment, is that correct?
Yes, you can declare.
Thank you.
Are you going to leave the room? Okay. 6.1, library appointment. Recommendation that the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve the appointment of Susan Osborne to the Whitewater Region Library Board. Motion and a seconder, please. Rigier and Councillor Mackay. And this goes to Carmen, please.
So we've seen a few of these over the years. Susan had reached out and asked if she could be a member of the board. I circulated the applications to the board members, and they are pretty excited to have her come forward. So we're recommending her appointment to the board.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Rigier.
Just a comment. First, just want to welcome her to Whitewater Region because it looks like she's moving here in October. So just want to welcome her and look forward to meeting her and thanking her in advance for her interest.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried, thank you. 6.2, restricted acts after nomination day and voting day. Recommendation of the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region enact a bylaw to delegate certain authority to the CAO in the event of lame duck situation following nomination day and/or voting day.
Oh, you got the wrong record.
Oh, I got the wrong one.
Sorry.
Yes, I knew that. So scratch what I just said. Now we'll go to the right one. That the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region enact a bylaw to delegate certain authority to the CAO in the event of lame duck situation following nomination day and/or voting day for the limited period between August 19th to November 16th, 2022.
I'm so sorry. That's still not right. Do that one.
I can't see it. You can read it, though.
Sorry.
You can read it for me, please.
So, and I'll explain after the motion is read what had happened. So the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region received this report for information purposes regarding the restricted acts during lame duck.
Motion and seconder, please. Councillor Mackay and Councillor McLaughlin. Carmen, please.
And I apologize for that. So after writing this report, it was brought to my attention that we have a delegated authority bylaw 2003-1280, which already, section 7 already designates the CAO to, how do I want to say it? Have a delegated authority during lame duck. So we don't need to appoint a bylaw through this report. So I will just give you a rundown about lame duck so that it's kind of clear because it's coming up. If if, in order to be in lame duck, less than 75% of council has to be returning. So from August 19th to October 24th, there's a possibility that we could be in lame duck if we don't have 75% of the council returning. I do believe we have 75% returning, so we will not be in lame duck during that period. But the period from, we only need 75%. Sorry, I am missing one. You're right. Sorry, thank you. Yeah. We're missing 2. We're down 2.
Possibly.
No, because they're still running. It doesn't matter what contest they're running for, they're still on council.
It actually does say that if 2 are competing against each other, it means one won't be in.
That's right.
Who's competing against each other?
Nobody yet. Nobody yet.
Until Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As writing this report. Okay, but that's fine. All right, so there's possibility of lame duck between August 19th and October 24th. And unless, if 75% of the council looks like they're coming back, we're not in lame duck. But there could be a time between October 24th and November 16th that we could be in lame duck, and that's if we all don't get in. So, and then those cases that the CAO would have delegated authority. Any questions?
Any questions? Clear as mud.
I feel better just knowing.
No, you have no question? Okay. All right.
Okay, I want to add.
Do you want to add?
Yeah, certainly I could. So ultimately, the lame duck piece is 2/3 of the members of the existing council. If 2/3 are not returning or have a chance to be re-elected on the future council, if there's no 2/3, then you move to lame duck. In our situation, with 7 members of council, mayor and deputy mayor in this case, we need 6 members of council returning and not competing against each other for a position. As it stands today, based on the nominations we've received, there is potential for lame duck. Okay? And the lame duck piece is that basically there's 4 items. One is which are going to be delegated to the CAO as it stands today in our delegation of authority bylaw, which was passed in 2020. So it speaks to the appointment and removal from office of any officer of the township, the hiring and dismissal of any employee of the township, and the disposition of any real or personal property of the township exceeding $50,000 and making expenditures that are not part of the budget that exceed $50,000. So those 4 items are which would be delegated to the CAO if we move into lame duck, and that hasn't been determined yet. It'll be determined after the nomination period, which is Friday at 2 p.m. Thanks.
Okay, anything else? Councillor Nicholson.
In the event of an emergency, does nothing changes with our EMC and the delegations that are empowered through that?
I would be leaning towards no.
Okay, good.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Seeing none, call for a vote. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. 6.3, procedural bylaw amendments. Recommendation that the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region pass a bylaw to amend the procedural bylaw to reflect changes to the Deputy Mayor, order of business, and inaugural meeting. Motion and a seconder, please. Councillor Mackay and Councillor Olmsted. And Carmen, please.
So this report is exactly what the recommendation says. There is just some changes to the procedure bylaw. One is that there's Reeve all through it, so the Reeve is now changed to deputy mayor. The order of business, we now do closed session before bylaws or after bylaws, so I swapped those around, and the inaugural meeting will be held Wednesday, the first Wednesday of the term, of the new term. So, any questions? November 16th.
Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Now we move on to 6.4, Active Transportation Corridor. Oh, how much of this am I reading? All of it. I can do it. Recommendation of the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region, 1, approve the purchase of part of the former CN Beachburg subdivision found in the Whitewater region, including the provincial crossing, at a cost of $193,344, and 13 cents, including non-refundable HST funded from reserve, and authorize the mayor and clerk to execute the necessary agreement to purchase of sale. Number 2, approve the entering into a lease with Canadian National Railway Company for those vacant lands forming part of the CN Beachburg subdivision described as lots 5, 647, 925, and 3, 350, 672 of the Cadastre of Quebec Registration Division and of Pontiac in order to facilitate the purchase of the appropriate party to ensure that the continuance of the municipal active transportation corridor from Highway 301 in Pontiac to Laurentian Valley Township. 3, approve the single source award of engineering services to WSP Canada for the completion of 5 bridge trestle inspections at a cost of $36,297.82, including non-refundable HST to be funded from reserve. Number 4, approve the single source award for Phase 1 and 2 environmental site assessment for the vacant lands forming part of the CN Beachburg subdivision described as lots 5, 647, 925, and 3, 350, 672 of the Cadastre of Quebec Registration Division of Pontiac to Cambimium at a cost of $34,822.30, including non-refundable HST funded from reserve. 5, approve the single source award of Phase 1 environmental site assessment for CN Beachburg subdivision found in the Whitewater region, including the interprovincial crossing at a cost of $10,170.92, including non-refundable HST funded from reserve. And 6, delegate authority to the Chief Administrating Officer to complete all due diligence as part of these transactions within the 90-day window and potentially 60-day extension. Motion and a seconder, please. Councillor Mackay and Councillor Jackson. And this goes to Ivan, please.
In fact, I'll transfer it over to Treasurer Sean to provide an introduction to the matter, and if there's any questions, I could follow up with some details. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Ivan. And well done, Mr. Mayor. So just to recap, you're approving the purchase of the Ontario lands and the interprovincial bridge, entering into a lease for the Quebec lands, approving engineering services for the bridges, approving a Phase 1 and Phase 2 environmental assessment for the Quebec lands, approving a Phase 1 environmental assessment for the Ontario lands, and then delegating to the CAO to kind of close the deal. Okay, so just a quick background, and I think everyone here has a pretty good understanding of this, but the corridor includes 319, just shy of 320 acres within Whitewater region, and it extends from Laurentian Valley border to the Ottawa River. In this transaction, Whitewater region will be responsible for the interprovincial crossing, and there would be a 100-year lease on the Quebec lands. The recently adopted active transportation plan did identify the corridor as an important part of the network, so it's kind of following up on that plan, and we're making it come to life. The trail does have 5 bridges. The longest, obviously, is the interprovincial bridge, and it's approximately 480 meters. The next longest is a bridge that spans Brooms Creek east of Forsters Falls, and it's about 135 meters. And then the remaining 3 are under 20 meters in length. It's important to note that who we've engaged with throughout this, or who staff has engaged with. So we've engaged with Laurentian Valley as part of the appraisal. We have spent countless, I wouldn't say, I guess, countless hours, but definitely a lot of time with our legal counsel on this transaction. We've engaged the active transportation partners in our community. We've spoken to our insurance broker to understand those effects. We reached out to the County of Renfrew Forestry and GIS Manager. As well, we're able to speak with the Director of Corporate Real Estate at the City of Ottawa to understand the kind of what it involves in taking care of these assets. And then throughout the funding implications, the $200,000 for the purchase price was budgeted for in the 2022 budget. The value, we believe the value of this asset would be in excess of $1 million. To date, we've roughly incurred about $20,000 in legal costs. We expect to incur probably between 30 and 40 more to complete the transaction. Speaking on the insurance piece, the general liability premiums are not expected to increase drastically upon purchase. But knowing that buying an asset such as this will increase risk, and then obviously if there's claims and our general liability, there would be an increase. Insurance to cover replacement costs of the bridges. I think the biggest asset on this corridor are the bridges. So obviously understanding that if a bridge was damaged or lost from the majority of the corridor, we'd likely would have to replace that at some point in time, if not relatively immediately, to make the trail still be a trail or a link. So we won't know exactly what that will do to our premiums until the bridge assessments are done and they'd be passed over to our insurance to get a quote on that as well. I think, and then obviously, you know, we'd be purchasing a trail. Next discussion would, and it come during budget times, would be what is the service level going to be? What's the plan on making, what are we doing with the actual ground that this lies on? But all that kind of stuff would get discussed at a later time. Really, we're just getting into, if council proceeds, we'll be into the due diligence period where we still have some work to do to ensure that we're recommending a solid purchase of an asset. Here we have on the screen, there's a map of the CN corridor. And we're going to get to a couple other things here in a second. Is that the first map, Carmen? Or is that the second? Is there another one? Keep the next one. Yeah. Okay. So this map here shows the red is the Ontario CN corridor and how it extends into Quebec, and then when it crosses back the Ottawa River, that's near down the city of Ottawa. So that red piece, a large portion of that would be our asset. I want to thank, on behalf of staff and council as well, I want to thank the County of Renfrew. They were able to put together a video that we're going to show in a few minutes here, a few seconds here. Kind of, it's a draft video. It's not final. We just received it not too long ago. Lane reached out to some colleagues because we thought it was important that you kind of get an idea of exactly the kind of asset you're owning. So with that, I'll turn it to Sean. Sean, if you can play the video, and at that point, then we would go to, I'd pass it back to the mayor for questions. So Captain Obvious here would state that that's the interprovincial bridge.
That's the longest bridge, which you gave reference to, crossing to Quebec. It's amazing how much bush is out there. You don't realize it when you're driving down the road. You don't see it, but you get along that rail. It's amazing. Average person has no idea that that's green space is there.
It's 35 kilometers and then an additional 1 kilometer in Quebec.
Maybe just a few things to note, and I'm on the mic here, but you'll notice the amount of farmland that's adjacent to it, and we spoke to council about the fencing piece, but also we'll be coming up to a bridge here shortly, which is up just I guess east of Foresters Falls. So just as a note.
That would be Brooms Creek or Black Rock area.
That's correct. And
Oh.
Yeah, but that's really high. I don't know how many feet. 150 feet.
No, it wasn't. And we can just note, last fall, myself, the mayor, and Ivan toured most of it with volunteers, and we did some surveying of it.
So the Moxham crossing is around Bennett Road, Howard Cemetery. It's in that area. That's where Moxham is. So that's Powers Road. So now we're coming into the village of Beachburg. Traffic's moving fast. Watch horn.
Yeah, there's Kathy's place. There's Greg Barn.
So bridge number 3 is coming up, or bridge number 4 is coming up, sorry. Beachburg Road. And before we get design line, then that's where the next bridge is.
Chicken house.
Yep. Yeah, there it is there. This is it. When you look at it from Beachburg Road, it's the one that's painted green, you can really see it. It's right before the design line. Bridge was just before the trains quit, they redid that bridge. So the next bridge will be the overpass. The road goes underneath it on McGonigal. No, McGonigal.
The right-of-way itself, I believe it varies in certain parts.
Okay, this is the road goes underneath the bridge here. And this is on McGonigal. And it's actually an S curve. It fills with water every spring.
It's about 25 to 30 on average, but then it widens.
So just to be clear, the railroad distance across is not the same as a road.
No, but the land that it owns?
Microphone. You have to be, folks at home want to hear what you're saying.
I'm just
No.
gonna move at it.
The road allowance width and the train track width is different. Coming up to the boundary of,
This is the boundary of,
this is the boundary, which is Greenwood Road and Laurentian Valley Township.
and the last, it does show the last bridge over the Algonquin Trail.
That's not ours, is it? Is that, that's in Laurentian Valley?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you to Renfrew County paramedics for doing that for us. It was very helpful. It sure saves walking it, doesn't it, council members? Okay, so where do we go now, CAO? Who's on this? Sean was talking, sorry.
It's over to you for questions.
Okay, questions, anyone? Councilor McLaughlin.
I guess I have a great big question, and I've struggled with this one an awful lot, because they want us to purchase the interprovincial bridge. What benefit is it to us if Quebec does not come on board? To me, it's a great big liability, which doesn't give us, like, it's no good unless the province of Quebec came on board and purchased their chunk, and then we'd have a system that would go from province to province. This way, it goes to the Ottawa River, we have the access across the Ottawa River, and then it stops. And it's a big liability. I'm totally in favor of purchasing anything the track from the Ottawa River to Laurentian Valley. I have no problem with that at all. I have a problem with the bridge. I think if I was guaranteed that the province of Quebec would jump on board and would purchase their share of the CN line, but if they don't do that and they turn it and sell it to private landowners, well then we're stuck with the bridge and the liability, and I really don't want that. That's my thoughts are, I want nothing to do with the bridge until the province of Quebec would assure us that they're on board. So I'll stop at that.
Okay, I've got a few comments on that. Thank you for that. Right now, the Snowmobile Club is allowed to cross property in Quebec and use the bridge, but ATVs are not, because they're not licensed roadway vehicles or something in Quebec different than Ontario. So right now, the snowmobiles are using that, but as far as I know, our ATV can't cross the bridge. So that's the stickler right now, and whether there's talks going on now with the rail line from there to the city of Ottawa, we don't know that for sure, what's happening there, or if in fact it will, we just don't know. But the intent of this report is to get things started. Now, Ivan, you might have to help me out on this, to get things started for the process. And we do have opt-out times, 30, 60, or 90 days, is that correct?
Yeah, so essentially if council passes the motion as it's drafted, what you're approving is that we enter into purchase and sales agreements with CN. And essentially that would allow us the due diligence periods to examine environmental pieces and the bridges, the conditions of the bridges, and other documents that they're going to send us, so other, shared use agreements. The due diligence periods extends over 90 days, and you could extend it for another 60 days. And if the results of those assessments, environmental, bridge condition assessments, and other information warrants us removing, withdrawing ourselves from the purchase and sales agreements, they're termed that we would be allowed to do that, subject to our lawyers and all that. So this is authorizing staff or the CAO to enter into purchase and sales agreements, but there's still a 90 and 60 day due diligence period where we can withdraw our request to purchase. So I think though, it would be good for council to give us, to some extent, clear direction on whether or not we're purchasing the three parts, or not purchasing, but examining the three parts. So one is the Whitewater region lands, 2, the bridge, and 3, the lease in Quebec. So that we're not exhausting our time and cost examining the bridge, the interprovincial bridge and the lease lands, because there's cost to do environmental in Quebec and there's cost to assess that interprovincial bridge. So if there's no interest at all, then we should probably provide us that direction so that we're not spending money in those situations. But certainly if we want to go in full steam ahead with the 3 items, there's certainly opportunities to withdraw from the purchase at a later date, subject to the reviews of those assessments. Thanks.
Okay, and just to add one little tidbit here, the property on Quebec side proper, where the bridge opens onto or drops onto, whatever, we can't purchase that, we can only lease. We can't purchase property in Quebec. So that's sort of another stickler right now. And I do believe it's the Township of Pontiac or province, or what is that, the County of Pontiac owns that property? Did we come up with that?
So the lands in Quebec are held by CN right now. So we would be leasing like a 100-year lease with CN to use those for recreational purposes. I converse with the snowgoers and the Renfrew County ATV, and they don't have the ability or authorization to purchase land. Like they're not-for-profit organizations. So while we would lease it, the intent or direction would likely be to try to find an organization that it could acquire, like to acquire them. So that might be the MRC of Pontiac, so the County of Pontiac, if you will, or other agencies in Quebec. Thanks.
Okay, hopefully none of this is too confusing for everyone. Hopefully it's clear as mud. So everybody understands now how we're trying to proceed this evening. So, questions? Councillor Nicholson.
Just wanted to follow up on a point Ivan had presented there in response to Councillor McLaughlin's point. Can we confirm the negotiating position of CN Rail as it pertains to the bridge versus the trail versus them having to go together?
So in my conversation with the representative from CN, the piece with if we chose to not acquire the bridge, the concern he raised is that they still own the bridge and they still own the abutments and they need to access it. So if we acquire everything to the bridge, well, the question is, how are they going to legally access the bridge from the Ontario side? So then the question is, I don't think they're not prepared to negotiate that piece, but I think it's just a matter of figuring out that complexity. And maybe we own all the way to Acres Road instead of owning all the way to the bridge. Maybe that's the option if council's kind of given direction that we only purchase what is in Ontario. So if that's the direction tonight, then we would go back to CN and figure out those matters. Does that answer your question, Councillor Nicholson? Yes.
But in order to proceed, this is what starts the ball rolling for all them samples and bridge inspections, etc. This starts the ball rolling. If we don't do this tonight, then nothing happens. It's dead in the water. So, Councillor Olmsted.
Yeah, I assume the portion down near Arm Prior, that's purple on the top right-hand corner, I assume the City of Ottawa does own the bridge. Can anybody confirm that? They don't?
They don't, no.
Yeah, I can confirm that they do not, in fact, own that bridge.
So, was that the bridge that they had a celebration last year, the Snowmobiles Club that they opened?
I can't confirm that.
Can't answer that.
I can, sorry. Yes,
You
it
can?
was.
Okay.
Yep.
So, I understand the bridge was repurposed, refinished. Do we know who did that and what transactions happened there?
I can't speak to fully, but I believe it was Pontiac Snowmobile Association and also the West Carleton Snowmobile Association worked on together, I believe. The piece that's shown on the Quebec side is a trail from the Pontiac Snowmobile Association. But I also can confirm that the Pontiac ATV Club does not use that trail currently.
So are they, obviously, if they've done a bunch of work on that bridge, they have some sort of lease agreement, I would assume then CN still owns it?
I can't speak of who owns it or what lease they have.
I'd like to understand that before we go ahead with the bridge decision. It seems like they put a bunch of money into that bridge down there without buying it, and they have the use of it. So I'm just a bit confused about who currently owns the bridge in Arnprior.
Whoever can answer that, that would be great.
Yeah, so what we can confirm is that the City of Ottawa does not own that bridge, based on our conversations with their real estate department. I can't confirm if CN has sold it to another entity, but so I can't confirm that, Councillor Olmsted. But what I can confirm is that in my conversations with the snowgoers and the RCATV, Renfrew County ATV, is that they are doing improvements to these structures and or the trail entirely at their cost. So they have agreements, user agreements, either with CN in the case of the Algonquin Trail with the County of Renfrew or Lanark County and the like. And those agreements stipulate what maintenance they may be doing to the particular multi-use trail. And further to that, in those agreements, it speaks to indemnification of the owner, i.e. the county or the township. So we're indemnified through their insurance for the volunteers that are working on the trail, okay? So those agreements, they generally would be like a 10-page standard sort of liability indemnification agreement, insurance certificates and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of how the maintenance piece works. So certainly as it stands today, CN has user agreements with those two organizations for the portion of land within Whitewater region. So those agreements have cancellation clauses. So those would continue through to us if we were to acquire the property, but we could certainly amend them, cancel them, and revise those agreements with those partners. Thanks.
Okay, answered your question. Councillor Nicholson?
Sorry, just to add to that, I just did a quick Google search. It just indicates that the federal and provincial governments contributed $314,000. The snowmobile club did $113,000 plus volunteer work, but it doesn't speak to ownership, just in terms of use. But it was very well supported federally and provincially.
For the bridge that is actually in the City of Ottawa per se. Okay, 'cause it's not in Arnprior, it goes to Arnprior, but it crosses on City of Ottawa. Okay. Okay, Councillor Olmsted.
Yeah, sorry, just to add that, and the same type of work has happened on the bridge crossing from Whitewater into Quebec. So just to put, so that bridge did receive some work last year, but the one in Whitewater also received the similar work, I believe it was 3 years ago now. So it's really up to date. Thank you.
Yeah, they're very good at upkeeping that stuff. So was it Reed Brigger had her hand up?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And I'm kind of just coming back with Councillor McLaughlin's recommendation. If it's going nowhere, if this trail is going nowhere, it is a huge expense, I think, and a big liability that we could be taking on here if it is not going anywhere. I think we could possibly end it at Acres Road and use that trail from there. But my one question is maintenance. So if we take this trail over, are we taking over the maintenance of it? I know right now the different user groups are using it and looking after it, but what is this going to become something we now maintain and look after if we own this? Because we don't have the public works for that. I don't even know have the equipment for it. So that's another question and something else that we have to take into consideration.
For sure. Councillor McKay.
Right now, the snowmobile and the ATV clubs maintain it. Why would that change? They want to use it, they would,
They have contracts that we haven't seen yet.
yeah.
Until we start this process, then they won't come across with that information until they know that we're actually going to move ahead. So other than that, that's all the information we have right now.
I'd like to make another point. These trails all link up to the CN line that's in Quebec, that goes to the other bridge in Iron Prior, right at Iron Prior, and comes back. So that makes a circuit. And snowmobile clubs, but something you have to look forward to is, in Quebec, they have the largest bike tourism in the world, and they would love to get using that trail to link to Ontario, and that's another plus on that. I mean, once we put stone dust, and we can have ATVs on our side of the trail, just like the Algonquin Trail, but we couldn't go into Quebec with our ATVs, but you can go with your skidoo or you can take your bike in there. So,
Yeah, snowmobiles, I believe they have to have a pass. I don't know,
Yeah,
over here
yeah.
they have to have a pass.
Yeah,
but
they pass,
in
yeah.
Quebec. But the bikes, no, the bikes are freewheeling.
That's right.
So, Councillor Olmsted.
Just to be clear, snowmobiles are, so the only users in Quebec that aren't allowed to use it are ATVs. Snowmobiles, walkers, bikes all use that trail.
yeah.
So it's not like the trail, it doesn't go anywhere. It does link up through Quebec and whatever. I personally would like to move that we act on the agreement as it is. We have a 90-day window, plus I see another 60-day window beyond that extension. And we're going to find out a lot of information during that period of time. We're going to see these agreements. We're going to see the standard of these bridges, and that'll give us 150 days. Gives us enough time, I think, to sort some of that stuff out. And if it's not the right thing to do, then we can still opt out. Thank you.
One thing that just came to light with that conversation previous to, it's really unfortunate there's no counter. We have no idea how many people use that bridge in a year, in a month, or whatever. You know, we don't know. So it would be nice to know, but there's no way to track that unless we put up trail cams or something. So any other questions? Councillor McLaughlin.
During all this conversation, all I can understand is that the CN line in Quebec is leased. That's my understanding. Is there?
No idea.
No, it's not. No idea. No idea. So what you're saying is tomorrow they could sell the far side of the track in Quebec at Portage, and that would block the trail. Okay. There's no other entrance from Quebec that, to my knowledge, on their track.
So I think two people behind us here can answer that.
I would just say that in my conversations with the snowgoers, the snowmobile clubs, I don't know their names, in Quebec, have agreements with CN to use the trail. Whether they own it, I'm not certain. I don't think they do. I think CN owns the former rail line in that portion of Quebec. And certainly if they choose to sell it, they would probably have the authority to do that. Thanks.
And I guess, Ivan, that's the part that I'm struggling very hard with, because I don't know, and I'm familiar with is it Highway 301 that runs from Portage to Bryson? I'm familiar with that road, and I'm familiar where the track comes across. I take it that we're purchasing or leasing the property from Highway 301 to the interprovincial bridge from, I guess...
From Portage, yes.
From
Portage area,
CN.
yeah.
Because it's CN that owns it. Even though they have a lease or an agreement, like Ivan stated, CN could sell it. Nobody knows whether CN is in negotiations with anybody over there to purchase the trail at all. Do you have any correspondence
I would just say we connected with an economic development officer of MRC Pontiac. They confirmed that they do not own the strip of land. They did not confirm if they're in negotiations with CN or not.
That's the part that I really have such a hard struggle, is why are we so anxious to purchase that bridge if the province of Quebec isn't going to, the townships aren't going to purchase their share? Because I just see it that if they go to private property and sell it that way, then we got a piece of property that's not very valuable to anybody. I think the only reason I would purchase the bridge is if the province of Quebec had purchased, or people in townships or whatever, if the whole trail was purchased, then I would be all over it. But to buy this little piece without having that, or because, you know, they're just leased. It's leased. So CN still has control. And I don't like to see us being stuck with a bridge. But, and I wouldn't be in favor of purchasing the bridge. I'd be in favor of moving ahead with the rest of the property. But, and if you make a motion at that time, no, I couldn't agree to it. Thank you.
Councillor Jackson?
My understanding was that it was all or nothing. That we don't have a choice of not purchasing the bridge, that we have to purchase to the other side of the bridge. They're not interested, that was my understanding, they were not interested in selling us just to the bridge, that it had to include the bridge. Am I incorrect in saying that?
I can't speak so much to that. I know that the former CAO might have had those conversations with CN, but my more recent conversation with the representative, he just identified that constraint with access to the bridge, but he never said that they would, you know, forego the sale of any other section of it to the township if that was the direction we were receiving from council.
And the other comment I have is this is just to proceed to the next step. It's not the final step of purchasing. So we will find out more information by going to the next step. And I'm just wondering if we can go ahead, because we've had this whole conversation a couple of times. It's been the same conversation from what I remember every time it comes up. So we either have to bite the bullet on this. Either we're going to do it or we're not going to do it. And I say bring it to a vote.
I agree. So we will vote on the motion that I read. Are you voting, or you want to ask a question? Okay, go ahead.
Can we have a recorded vote?
Yes, we can.
Thank you.
Clerk will facilitate the recorded vote.
I want to know, excuse me, Mayor, I want to know exactly what we're voting on here.
What I read, as it stands.
So, and includes everything right to the interprovincial bridge.
This gets everything started. This is what this does.
Can I ask one
And
more
then
question?
We still
then
have time to opt out. Yes, go ahead, ask your question.
One more question to staff. So before we proceed with this, once, so if everything comes back, all the bridges are okay and they're sound, we don't have an option to opt out at this point in time. Is that correct?
I would say no. I mean, the results of the reports will help guide decisions, but certainly the conditions, the findings from those reports will be discussed and closed with council, but there's still a clause to opt out of the purchase and sale, subject to our lawyer review and all that. I think the key thing here is the next time we would report to council would be enclosed. So the township's paying for those reports. The findings of those reports are ours, it's our property, we're not going to be sharing those reports with CN or CN essentially. So how we interpret the findings is up to us. So if, while the report might say it's good, we could interpret it how we see fit. So we'd be coming back to closed, but there's certainly always an option to opt out within that due diligence period.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, clerk will proceed with the vote.
Sorry. Councillor Mackay? Councillor Nicholson?
In favor.
Councillor Olmsted?
In favor?
Councillor Jackson?
In favor.
Councillor McLaughlin?
Opposed?
Reeve Regier?
In favor.
Mayor Moore?
In favor. In favor.
It was on. I'm sorry, that was my fault. Sorry, thanks, Sean. Carried. 6-1.
Okay, so motion is carried. So ends that conversation. We had the vote, now we move on, right?
Yeah, we're done.
Yeah, we're done. Okay. 5-minute break, sorry.
Oh, we're like almost there.
5-minute break. I need a break. Okay, thank you, and we're back, 6:34. Item 7, notice of motion. Seeing nothing, we'll move on. Thank you. Number 8, adoption of minutes. Recommendation of the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve the regular minutes of August 17th, 2022. Motion and a seconder, please. Councillor Mackay and Councillor Nicholson, thank you. All in favor? Carried, thank you. Correspondence. Request for road maintenance on Ottawa River Access. I forgot that this conversation had actually come up at some point a while back, and now it's come in writing, so I would request that Ivan take this back and bring us more information as required.
Yeah, certainly. So we did receive a letter from, one attached to the agenda is from Wilderness Tours. I did receive another letter from Dirk and Claudia from Owl Rafting. So this is kind of the public access piece, and certainly I'll bring a report back at one of the September meetings regarding this for council's consideration. Thanks.
Could you also include a map, just so there's no confusion?
Yes, certainly.
McCoy and McCoy?
Yeah.
That would help immensely, thank you.
Perfect.
Okay, now we'll move on to bylaws. Recommendation be it resolved that the bylaws listed in the August 17th, 2022 agenda be taken as read and passed.
With the exception of
With the exception of
22081542.
42, okay. Okay, with the exception of 22-08-1542 lame duck, that will be removed. So we will be voting on item 1543 and 1544 and 1545. Motion and seconder, please. Councillor McLaughlin and Councillor Nicholson. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. What? Did I? I'm sorry.
Okay, I don't mind moving it.
Hey, 3 3/4 years, I'm still getting your names wrong.
Some people aren't trainable.
Okay, now we're moving to item 11, closed session, community services and upcoming vacancy. Recommendation of the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region move into closed session at 6:37 p.m. as permitted under Section 9 of the Procedural Bylaw to discuss employee negotiations, personnel matters about an identifiable individual, manager of community services, and upcoming vacancy with the CAO, Deputy Clerk, and Treasurer, Deputy CAO remaining in the room. Motion and seconder, please. Councillor Jackson and Councillor McLaughlin. All in favor? We're closed at 6:37. Thank you.